Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial we'll learn how to make this beautiful bubu design. This is my first attempt in making this bubu. I was surfing the net and I came across the bubu. I love it and I was like, okay, let me see if I can achieve this. So the first challenge I had was, what material will I use to achieve the design? I don't want to use brocade or damask because they are expensive and I'm not sure if I'm going to get it. So I decided to use this particular crepe, which was it came out well, only that it will be difficult for me to show you what I did, but I will try as much as possible to explain. This is the final product. I got the design, although with a lot of error and mistake along the line, which I will try as much as possible to explain all I did so that you will not make a mistake. And if you follow my teaching step by step, I can assure you you'll come out with a very lovely outcome. Alright, let's get started. I'll be working with a pattern paper and we draft the back pattern first. So I measure 28 inches, which is from the center back to my wrist. That is where I want the sleeve to get to. But if you don't want your sleeve to get to your wrist, then you can reduce it, or maybe peradventure you don't have a your fabric is not that much, you can reduce it. So I just drew the line, the 28 inches line downward. Now the next thing would be to work on the neck or the shoulder. Now like I always do when I'm drafting, I mark 3 inches, and from that 3 inches I marked 5 inches, and on the 5 inches I came down by 1.5 inches to draw my shoulder slant. So when I wanted to draw this shoulder slant, I now realized that if I have to draw it to follow that 1.5 inches, then it might be I may have to go deep before I get to the wrist, the 28 inches line. So I was just confused, trying to see what to do. I said, okay, no problem, let me just continue. So I decided to draw it. Did you see? And I just followed the 1.5 inches and I kept drawing until I get to this line, and at this point I have 8.25 depth. Okay, the next thing is to work on the neck. So I went 1.5 deep and 3 inches wide. So I drew the neck, and that is all I have to do for the back pattern. So I decided to cut it out. Now I must say that this pattern was not long enough for the upper part of this bubu, but I did not want to add to the paper, so I decided to cut it like that. And when I want to cut my fabric, I will make it longer. So basically this is all for the back. I had to cut it out, and because I was skeptical, I wasn't really sure of what I was doing at this point. I was thinking, which fabric will I use for this bubu? When you look at the style, they made use of a damask or brocade, depending on what you want to use, and it is quite expensive. So I was thinking, what will I use that will be medium weight fabric, because you need something that is not too thick and that is not too thin for this upper part. If you use a very thick fabric, it will be too heavy because you need a whole lot of fabric to achieve this design. And I don't want to use brocade, I don't want to use damask, so that if peradventure I did not get the design well, I will not be too upset with myself. So I have one medium weight crepe, and I made up my mind that that is what I'm going to use, although because it had black and it will be difficult for you to see what I'm doing, but I'll try as much as possible to explain. So at this point I'm done cutting the back design, and this is my pattern, the front pattern paper. And if you look at the design very well, you realize that it is more like it has shawl collar. So this is the center front. I need to leave about 5 inches for at this center front for that collar. So I'll be marking 5 inches at this point, and I will draw the line till I get to the end of my paper. The next thing I will do is to bring the back pattern, place it on the front, and I will make sure I leave enough space at the upper part because I need to draft collar at that point. So I will just mark the back. I already marked it, and I will, so that I can use it for the front. Now after this step, the next thing will be to mark my, okay, I want to mark this the upper part, so that I already cut off the neckline for the back, so that I can determine the neckline for the front. And I did 3 inches by 3 inches also for the front neckline. The next thing I'll do is to mark my placket, my front placket. You know it, the Bubu style has an overlap at the center front where you put your button. It has a button. So depending on how wide you want your button to be, you can mark 1 inch, 1.5 or 1.25. At this point I'm marking 1.25. So I will draw the line. Now I need to mark my breaking point. That is the point where the collar will start from. The shawl collar, like I said, it has a shawl collar in front. So I decided, it depends on how deep or how well exposed you want that front to be. I used, for this tutorial, I used 9.5 inches. 9.5 inches, that is where my break point will be, 9.5 inches. So I'll connect that line, that placket line, that my button line, to the 9.5 inches. If you don't want it at that point, you can reduce it or you can increase it. So I'm done with that. The next thing will be to connect from the neckline to that point, that 9.5 inches point, which is my break line or break point, like I said. Now the next thing will be to mark the neckline, to measure the back neckline. The purpose of this measurement is for me to know my collar, how long my collar will be for the front. So I already measured it, and it gave me 3.5 inches. It gave me 3.5 inches. So on this my front neckline, I will come up by 3.5 inches. That is what I just measured now. On the back, I will come up like this by 3.5 inches, and I'll connect the line. Now for my collar to sit well, I will go out by 0.5 inch. Then I will connect it again. I will redraw the line. This 0.5 inch will make the collar to relax properly. 0.5 inch. Now the next thing I want to do is to redraw this line so that I can connect it properly. It wasn't really looking like I wanted it, so I decided to redraw the line using this curved ruler like this. So that would be the new line. So when I'm cutting on that new line. Alright, let's work on the shape of our collar. For this neckline, this front neckline, I'll come out by 2 inches. Now it depends on your preference. Now you can come out by 2.5 or even 3 inches depending on how big you want your collar to be, but I just came out by 2 inches. Now also on this point, depending on what you want, you can use 3.5, you can use 4, you can use 5. I decided to use 4. So let me just draw the line so that you can see what I'm doing. So I decided to come out here and I marked 4 inches. If you want, you can reduce it or increase it depending on how wide you want your collar to be. After marking the 4 inches, I came up also by 0.5 inches. I came up by 0.5 inches and I redrew that line. The purpose of coming up is for the collar to be free at that point. And remember, I came out here by 2 inches. Came out here by 2 inches. So the next thing will be to connect the lines. Now you can decide to make it straight, you can decide to make it curvy depending on what shape you want. So I'm just trying to get the best shape. So just watch, I'll just connect to the 2 inches and to the 4 inches. Just trying to place my ruler, trying to check what shape I want. You can make it, you can use any shape you decide. So this is the shape my collar it's going to take. And basically that's all for the front pattern. The next thing will be to cut it out. I'm still trying to adjust the collar. Just trying to adjust the collar. Alright, so once I'm okay with the collar, I'll cut it out. And I'll use this pattern to cut my fabric. Alright, so this is what the two pattern look like, both the front and the back. Now let me bring out my fabric. Alright, this is the fabric I decided to use because this style will require a whole lot of fabric. So if you are sewing, I will advise for the upper part you get 3.5 yards. The length of this fabric is by 60. So if you are using by 60 fabric, then 3.5 yards, maybe anything between 3 yards to 3.5 yards will be fine. So I decided to fold it like this so that I can cut the back first. So I'll place my back pattern on it and I will cut out the back pattern. I will add half-inch allowance at the neckline and the shoulder also. So after cutting, this is what it looks like. This is the center back. This is the neckline with 0.5 inch allowance. Now, like I said earlier, the pattern is not long enough for the upper part, so I had to extend it on the fabric. Now, the upper part I use is 39 inches. The total length of the gown is 58 inches. So this is the front. Now I added half-inch allowance at the shoulder, at the collar round, or the center front, and because it wasn't long also, I added to the lower part. And that is that. All right, let's start. The next thing I cut is the facing for the collar for the front. So I use the main fabric also to cut the facing, you see. So I cut two facing. Since the front is a 2, I cut two facing like this. The facing is like this till I get to the end. Now I had to mark the break point on the fabric, so I place the pattern back on the fabric so that I can notch this break point. Okay, let's start sewing. The first thing is to put the facing of the front right side to right side, and so now if you want personal preference at this point, you can add interfacing to your facing fabric, but since I'm using a medium weight fabric, I just decided, okay, I will not be adding interfacing. So I will use the half-inch allowance I added to do the sewing until I get to the down part. So this is my the front, one side of the front with the interfacing. So they are facing each other right side to right side, and I will sew it until I get to the end with half-inch allowance. So I'm almost at the end. I'll back tack, cut off my thread. Now I need to trace the break point. Remember I marked the break point on the main material the other time. This is the break point. So I will cut it, I will notch it properly, and maybe I'll cut it in a V shape so that it won't confuse me, so that I'll be able to trace it later. Now the next thing now is to notch the sewing allowance, the sewing that I just did now. I will notch them from down to the upper part. So I will just cut it at interval, so that it can relax, because I want to understitch. So I'll just cut it. That was the reason I had to put that V on the break point, so that the break point notching will be different and I'll be able to trace it later. You see the break point at this point. Alright, so let me just keep notching until I get to the end. Then I will show you the next step. Now the next step is to understitch. Now you see I opened it. This is the facing, and I'll be sewing on the facing close to the stitching. I'll sew on it, and I'll make sure my allowance is towards that facing side, and I'll keep sewing until I get to the break point. You should know the point I call the break point at this point. So once I get to the break point, I will change the position where I am stitching, where I am under stitching. Did you see the break point? Now I'll move the allowance towards the main body of this material, and at that point, instead of stitching on the facing, I will go towards, I will cross and I will go to the main body. So at this point I'm already at the main body. I am not stitching the facing again, I'm stitching the main body at that break point. This is the disadvantage of using black, so I just hope you understand what I did. So at this point I am not under stitching on the facing any longer. I am now under stitching on the main material, and that is how I'm going to do until I get to the collar and until I get to the end. All right, I hope you understand. If you don't understand, you can watch again. You can watch that point again. Now this is it. You see, this is the break point, and that is the point where I moved from my facing. I was stitching on the facing before. I now move to the main material, so that when I do my collar like this, the understitching will not show. You know, when I do it like this, it is the facing that is showing, so the stitch will not show. It will be on the main material. I hope you understand. So I'll do that to the second one, and I'll come back to show you what I have. Now this is the collar. This is what it looks like with the facing and the main material. Now the next thing will be to join my collar. I'll bring the two. This is one. This is the second one. I will open it up like this, so the facing will face each other, the material the same the other side, and it will be right side to right side. So I will sew it ½ inch like that. This is at the collar rather. So I'll just make sure the right side is facing the right side, and I will sew it. So let me just sew so that you can see what it will look like eventually after sewing. All right, so this is the collar. This is the collar, the front now. This is what it looks like. So you can just take it to your ironing table and press open your seam and iron it properly. Now let's go to the next stage. At this point I wasn't really sure what the next stage is supposed to be. The options I have is either to sew the back neckline to the front neckline, or to close the front, the plackets in front, so that I can fix the button if I want to fix the button and the buttonhole. So I decided that, okay, let me just join the front first. Let me put it on top each other and sew, since I don't know whether the button will be functional, whether I will sew it and I will not be able to open it, or maybe I will make it opened. So let me sew the front first before the neckline. So I decided to lay the front pattern, the front part of this dress first. Then I'll put it on each other depending on which side you want to put your buttonhole and your button. So you see the neckline now. So I will place it on each other and I will go and stitch it. I'll stitch it down so that I can now decide the next step. So after placing it on each other like this, using the 1.25 allowance that I added to the front, so I'll just take it to my sewing machine and start from somewhere maybe at the waistline and sew it down. Then after that, I now decided that okay, let me now do the pleats, the lower part. So I'll be using this material for my pleats. You know, it depends on the length of your gown now. For example, my gown length is 58 and this upper part is 39 plus the seam allowance 1 inch. I cut it 40. So now the lower part is supposed to be 19 or 20. So for me not to be to cut it short, I made it 21. So and this is the material. I already cut the material and I am pleating it on the upper part. So you just decide whatever pleat you want. If you want it very full or you want it scanty, and you can even, I think, gather too will work at this point if you want to gather it. And this lower part, depending on how full you want it to be, you might budget like 3 yards for the lower part for this pleat. You might budget like 3 yards for it. So I just did the pleats. I just did the pleats like that to the front and to the back of this gown, so that after this pleats I will now decide the next step. Now let's work on this facing by this side. Now this is the pleated part. Did you see it? This is the pleated part, and I left ½ inch at this point. You can leave 1 inch if you want. And if you're, so this is what I will use as that facing, and I will just place it on this like this, and I will sew it until I get to the upper part. So now this is what it looks like. This is the lower part, and I'll just keep going until I get to the end. The wideness of this facing that I use is 9.5 inches. So now look at the way I'm going to do this turning. I'll pack all the pleated parts inside like this. I pack inside and I will use my facing to turn it so that I can sew it. Can sew my facing inside. I hope you get it. Let me do it again. You see, this is the way it actually was with the facing. So I pack the pleated material inward and I use my facing to turn it so that I can sew that part. This is the material, the pleated material inside, the facing wrapped it like this, and I'll just sew. So I'll just turn it. Now I didn't finish because I realized that I needed to fold my facing first. Or if you don't want to fold, you can take it to an overlock machine and overlock it. And also the part that I pleated under, because I used the sievage edge, I didn't fold. So, but if yours is not sievage edge, you might need to fold it like this before you do the pleat. Now, this is the interfacing, the material I use as the interfacing, and this part you can have to finish it also. So with the interfacing material, I need to fold it. I need to fold it so that I can have nice finishing. If you don't do it like this, you can use your overlocking machine to finish it well, or you tape it depending on the type of finishing you want. So let me just do double fold hemming. So after doing that hemming, I can now finish it up at this end. That is at the lower part, at the pleated part. Now let me show you what it looks like. I have to turn it inside. This is the outer part. This is the facing showing itself. And I now realize I was supposed to understitch also before I turn it at the lower part. So I'm so sorry. This is the first time I'm sewing this. I'm just trying out this pattern. So things that I was supposed to do keeps coming. So I am doing them like more in reverse. But let me explain. Now, after pleating the lower part, the next thing will be to add your side interfacing. Interfacing. That is the material that will turn it inside. So you will sew your interfacing. After sewing this interfacing, this particular one, you will now stitch on top. You understitch on it. After understitching, that is when you will now use it to turn your pleated material at the lower part. I hope it makes sense. Okay, because I did not understitch earlier, I could not enter that corner, but it won't really affect it. So this is what it looks like. You see, I couldn't enter that side, but this is what it looks like. Just take it to your ironing table and iron properly. Did you see it? So I've been able to fold the side. I've been able to fold it inside. And I've done the other side too, both the front and the back. This is the lower part. This is the inside, the pleated side. And this is how the material I used to turn it, or the interfacing. This is what it looks like. Did you see it? Did you see that sewing that I did? You see, if you are sewing this Bubu for a customer, for those of you that doesn't know how to charge, make sure you charge very well, because it has a whole lot of detail, a whole lot of things to do. a whole lot of things to do. You see the interfacing. Now I'll have to trim off the excess at that point. So what I'll do is I'll lay it very flat. I will use my pin to hold it well so that I don't undercut or overcut that side. So just keep watching. You see how I'm going to use my pin to hold it well. Make sure everywhere is well laid flat before I cut it off. And I'll do the same for the front and for the back. Now this is the front. This is the overlap where the button will be and the buttonhole. And this is the neckline, the collar. So the next thing we need to do now is to connect the back to the front. The back neckline and the shoulder line and everything to the front. And I think this is another technical part I will try to explain, and this is one of the reasons why I actually regretted using a black material. So this is the back, and I want to notch the center back, the center neckline, sorry. This is the neckline of the back, so I will notch it. Just stay with me. I will try to explain as much as I can. All right, so this center back, I will place it on that joining at the collar. Now right side to right side, I'm not working on the facing, I'm working on the main material, the collar of the main material to the collar of the back. Then you see this sharp edge on the front, and the end of the back neckline, I will place it with I will match them, and I will use my pin. Then from there I will keep going on the shoulder line now until I get to the hand. You know, the line is very long until we get to the hand. But at this part too, because of the facing, I'll be using the back facing to turn the front facing. You see, this is the hand of my cloth, but this is the facing. Remember, I pinned it when I was trying to cut off the excess. So I will now turn it. I'll turn, that is the back facing, I'm turning round to go and hold the front now. So it's holding the main material of the front and the facing. So all the facing are on the same side and the main material on the same side. Now I hope it makes sense. You can pause, you can rewind and rewatch that part again. So I will pin it. Then I will do exact the same thing I did here to the other side of this dress. Before I now take it to my sewing machine to sew. Now I'll start from the end, and that is where I'll start sewing from. Just I'll keep washing. I will try to explain as much as I can. This is another technical part of this bubu. The bubu is so beautiful. When I finished the work, I was so much in love with it. And in fact, I was like, hey, if I had known, I would have used a more fancy material. Honestly, this is a one bubu that I am in love with. But the work, them, although it will be easier for you washing now because I have done all the errors. There are some error that I made that I didn't put in this video, because there was a time I added belts thinking there was belts before I realized there was no belts in the design. So I had to cut off that part because I don't want to bore you with all the mistakes or the errors that I made. So but the basic one that you need to know is what I included in this video. So just watch as I keep sewing. When I get to the neckline, I will explain what you need to do. I have to shift my camera to the front so that you can see. So once I am close to the neckline, this is the back up and the down is the front. So once I get to this point, close to the beginning of my back neckline, I need to notch. I need to notch that part. If you are used to sewing this type of collar, you shouldn't have any issue with it. So I will notch this part. I'm notching only the back so that I can be able to turn that neckline. I will notch so close to the part that I am sewing or I want to sew. So I will go back inside and I'll continue sewing. I'll be able to pivot, be able to move the neckline. That is the reason why I had to do that small cut. So I'll just continue sewing, trying to make it visible as much as I can. So I'll continue till I get to the center. You see that you remember I notched the center neckline. That is where I am presently. So I will continue until I get to the other side, and I will notch the way I did for the first side. So I will, once I get to this point, I will notch as well. So I'll just pivot and I'll continue sewing until I get to the end. I hope you understand and I hope it makes sense to you. It's actually not that difficult. You just need to take your time. So I'll get to the end and that will be all. So once when I got to this stage, I was already thinking, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? How do I do the joining? And I'll still put the pleats. Actually, when I saw this tie, I saw two different types. I saw the one that does not have pleats at the shoulder. Like this. You see this particular one? It doesn't have pleats at the shoulder. The other ones I saw had pleats. So I was just like, how do I do the pleats and how do I do the side joining? Because at this point I realized that my belt will not work. So I already lose the belt. I removed the belt. So I had to look at the image very well. I realized that, okay, I think it is fitted. It was joined. So how do I do the joining? And how do I add the pleat by the shoulder? Those are my two concerns. And okay, let me just keep going. I will turn this and I will show you how it looks like before we go to the next part. Now again, I remember that the facing, you know, the side facing that we did, how do I make it stay in place that it will not open? So I was like, okay, maybe we can do a straight stitch. But let me just show you the neckline first. You see, this is the collar. Did you see it? Did you see it? The part that will notch is this part and this other part. So I'm done sewing. You can just iron it to give it a nice finishing. Okay, no, I'm not done with the collar. I forgot. All right, you know, we did not put the facing when we were sewing. It was only the main material for the front and the back. So the facing is still open. Did you see the facing is still open? So I still need to look for how to put the facing. Now this is how to do it. This is how to do it. Let me show you. You see, that's the collar. Now this is, you remember the center, the collar, the center of the collar that we joined. So we have to fix it. But before then, let me show you. You see this corner, I will have to notch it. Trying to, because it is black. You see this collar, the one I notched while I was sewing, that is the same corner I'm going to notch at this point too. I'm seriously regretting that I used black. But let me just explain as much as I can. So I will notch this corner. I will notch it with like 0.5 inches. 0.5 inch rather. Just cut it inside a little. Okay. Now we'll place the one that I already sew. That corner that, you know, I already sewed that corner that I notched earlier while I was sewing. Watch as I will use it as I will turn this part. It's a little bit tricky, but you will get it. Just to wash my hand, you see I placed it like this is the way it's supposed to be, but I'll just turn it. You see, I'll turn it. Instead of placing it like this, I will turn it like this. Did you see the way I'm turning it? And I will just go and sew it just like that. I'll pin it, I'll do the second side, and I will just go and sew. I hope it makes sense. I hope you get it. So I'll pin it, and that is how I'm going to sew it, and I will do the same to the other side. All right, after sewing, this is what it looks like. It's still remaining one part that I have not. Let me try to show you. You see, this is the part I just took to my machine to sew. This part I have not done anything. That is the center back, the main center back. This other side too, I've done it. Now this remaining side, I'll just fold it. Watch as I will do the folding. I'll just fold it with the sewing allowance. I'll fold it in and I'll just sew with a straight stitch. If you don't want it to show, you can use your hand to do a blind hemming. So at this point, I'm still trying to show you. So I'll just take it to my machine. I'll pin it and I'll take it to my machine. I'll just sew it, and that will be all for our neckline. Then we'll be left with how to do our side joining and how to do the pleats. At this point, I must tell you I am already tired because of the mental work I had to do, and this is day 3 of working on this project. This is day 3. I started on Saturday, and today is Monday actually. This is Monday. If you watch very well, you see that I've changed almost 30 clothes or something. So this is the neckline. This is done. So now it remains on the joining, just trying to show you what it looks like. But don't worry, I made a lot of mistakes, and I had other projects I had to do. That was why it took that long. It won't take you that long, but it will take a handful of time. So when you are charging for this work, charge very well. And coupled with the fact that it takes the upper part, I said 3.5 yards, the lower part 3 yards. That's almost 6.5 yards of material. Now I'm left with this facing. What do I do with the facing? Even though I joined it at the shoulder, that's the shoulder part, and I already tack it at this other part too, but it's still left, it's still opening. So the option I have is either to use my hand to tack it down, that is using a blind hemming, or you use your machine to do a blind hem, or you use your hand, or you sew it straight. You can just sew it if you are not afraid of your stitch showing at the other side. So I just took it to my machine and I just ran a straight stitch. Simple. I don't want to do any hard work at that point. If you are using a machine thread with your material, it won't make a difference. So you just sew it. I already did that. I already ran it through my machine with a straight stitch. So my facing is in place. Now I'm left with the joining and the what's it called now, and the pleats. Now if you are doing the one without pleats, you just leave it and just do the joining. At this point, I thought the pleat comes before the joining, so I was marking out my pleats, the parts that I will pleat. I did all this and I realized, man, it will not work. So let me go to show you the final thing I now did that worked for me. Alright, after doing all the experiments that did not work, this is the one that worked. I had to lay it down, make sure everything is well laid, and I marked my center back. So from the center back, I will mark to where my shoulder is. Whatever your shoulder is, you mark it. Then from that shoulder point, I will go to what I want my armhole to be. Let me start again. This is the center. I'm trying to use a chalk here. This is the center back. That's the center back. Now from the center back, I will mark my shoulder divided by 2 at this side, shoulder divided by 2 at this other side. Okay. Now after marking that, From that, I'm still trying to mark my shoulder. From that point, I will mark the armhole, how open I want it to be. Ordinarily, my armhole is 8. I usually use 8, but at this point, I use 10 inches. Because I wasn't sure how open what I was supposed to use. So instead of using 8, I decided to use 10 inches. Now I mark to where my waist is. My shoulder to waist is 16. So I marked my shoulder to waist 16. That is the 16. Now at this point, I marked my bust divided by 4 and I added 1 inch allowance. My bust divided by 4, then I added 1 inch to it. Then at the waistline also, my waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch. I wasn't really sure how open it's going to be, but I had to do something. I had to try. I cannot come this far and decide and not do something. So I added 1 inch to it. Instead of my waist divided by 4 is 8.5. I added 1 inch and I made it 9.5. And here too, my bust divided by 4 was 9.5. So I now mark 10.5. And I try to join it so that I can have the normal shape, this normal shape. So I was not like, okay, what do I do? Where do I start joining from? For my waist, I came up by 2 inches. 2 inches. So that is where I'm going to sew. I will start my sewing from that 2 inches. That is 2 inches above my waist. But I need to do this. I need to put my measurement so that I will see the shape. So from my waist now, I went down to my hip line. Still using the center line, the back center line as my reference point. Alright, so from my waist to my hip line, then my hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch. My hip divided by 4 is 10.5. I added 1 inch, so I marked 11.5 at this point. And I joined it. I had to use pen at this white point so that it will be a little bit visible. You get? And I just maintain that 11.5 till I get to the part where my pleat starts from. To the part where my pleat starts from. So I maintained that 11.5. I wasn't sure whether I will have to sew the pleated side as well, but I felt no, the pleated side can be open. So I just maintained the 11.5 inches downward. And the exact thing I did here, I did also at the other part, at the other side. So after joining, this is what it looks like. Man, it has been a very long journey. So at this point, you can now open up the front, put your your buttonhole and your button are the spats. Did you see it? The shape is out. This is how it looks like inside. This is the facing sewing. Then I sew it at this point. Did you see? If you want it tight, and that means the button in front will have to be functional. I have to open that center front and put my button and buttonhole. Did you see it? Man, it's actually very beautiful. At this point, there is no pleat yet. There's no pleat at the shoulder side. So I'm just trying to show you what it looks like after several days and some nights. Yes, but it's so beautiful. I actually wished I used a very shouting material. But I was so scared because it involves a whole lot of material. If I make a mistake, how will I cover up? So you see, that is if you want to put the pleats. I'll wait for the mannequin now so that I can show you how to do the pleats. At this point, I am so happy. I am very, very happy because, oh man, I can't go this far and come and mess up. So if you don't want to pleat it, it's okay like this. But I feel it flows. It's too flowy by the side. But when you pleat it, it's come up. You get. So let's wear it on the mannequin so that I can show you what the pleat looks like. You see the back, all the markings are still there. So let me wait for the mannequin, then I will pleat, and that will be all. This video is so long. Thank you so much for watching this video. Did I nail the style? Did I get it right? I think I did. This is the inside. You see it. So if you want any clarification, let me know. Alright, so from the mannequin, from the neckline, I will mark where I want my pleat to be. I marked 4 inches. I marked 4 inches. If you want, maybe 4 inches should be fine. So I just marked 4 inches at this point. And I want my pleat to be 4 inches also after pleating. So I just marked, after the 4 inches I marked another 8 inches. That's how big I want it to be, so that when I finish sewing it will be 4 inches. So I marked the 8 inches. That is the 4 inches that I first marked. Then from that 4 inches, I marked 8 inches. I'm working on that line, the shoulder line. So from that 8 inches, I will raise it up to meet the 4 inches. The center, the mid is 4 inches. That will be the point. You see, I'll raise it up like that to meet each other, and I will pleat it. I will pleat it. And I will come to the front and try to make sure my pleat follows the same pattern. And I just, from that shoulder line, I came down by 7 inches to the front and to the back, and that was what I took to my sewing machine, and I just sew a straight line like that to get the pleat. So I did that for both sides, and I can tell you it came out beautiful. So the next thing after this is to go do my buttonhole and to put my button. At this point, I need to rest. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have learned something, and I will see you in my next video. If you have any clarification, anything you want me to explain about this style, just drop your comments and I will try as much as possible to attend to it. So I marked 7 inches, and that is where I am going to sew, and both the front and the back, I will do that on both sides. Thank you for watching this video.